Hi, this is Monica from Huckleberry Mountain Botanicals, and I'm here with
Lindy,
my daughter. You'll have to excuse my voice. I'm almost losing it, so just tolerate. While I'm waiting for everyone, because I know I'm a little bit early, I wanted to tell a chicken story because I'm not a big chicken person. I'm not like one of those ladies that goes out and talks to my chickens and they all come, gathering around me or anything like that. However, I do have a lot of compassion for animals, and once we own them, I want to take really good care of them. And one of the chickens, one of the hens, started coming up onto our back deck. And she had, a lot of feathers missing on her back and on her head. And to me, I always sort of like interpret things. And so I looked at her and I thought, oh, she's like me. She's a non-conformer. She doesn't want to pay attention to the order, the pecking order of the chickens. And so she's kind of getting harassed and bothered. So I had compassion for her. I was like, oh, the poor little thing. So I started feeding her. I opened the door, and at first she was leery, but pretty soon she started getting to know me, and to the point that she was every morning waiting at my back door on the deck. Sorry, we're having issues. Decided to go underneath here. But anyway, so I would feed her right out the door. But I don't know if you own chickens, you understand the mess that they make. And so my whole deck was just getting covered in chicken poop. So we came up with this plan of making my compost bin in my herb garden into more of a run. And then we would attach one of our coops, and so we could just stick her in there. So all we needed to do was catch her, which seemed like a pretty easy thing. I didn't want to be the one because I didn't want her to hate me. So I sent Lindy out, and I was sort of out trying to, keep her in a little bit while Lindy chased the chickens. And so she's chasing this chicken all over the deck, and we're on a 2-story deck here. She not only snuck underneath one of the pieces of furniture we have out there, it's like a shelf unit, but she squeezed herself between the slats and then flew from the 2nd story down to the bottom. So the next day we were a little more what I thought was savvy, right? I'm like, okay, we're keeping her away from there. I'm gonna open the door. I'm gonna hold bread, because she loves bread, and she'll be pecking at it. And then you come from the back and get her, right? That sounded like a totally legit plan. Little did I think that this chicken, seeing this open door, would decide that that was the escape route that she wanted to take. And so here I am squatted down feeding the chicken. She hears Lindy coming up behind. Hi, Sean. Hi, Sandy. And she flies over me into the house. Mm-hmm. And now she is on her way down our stairs, and I'm just imagining poop. And our dog then at that point is starting to chase.
And our cat.
Oh, and the cat. So we have, this chicken, this dog, and this cat running madly downstairs, and Lindy with her chicken net come and chase them down too. So anyway, she finally was able to trap her. We were able to trim her feathers, and then we stuck her in there. So she's content now, and I still get to spend time with her, and I can go out and bring her treats. And she's right in my herb garden, so I see her a lot, and she's pooping in a way that makes sense and breaking down our compost for us so I can use it in my garden. So just a fun little story to tell you while I was just waiting for a few people to come.
It wasn't that fun for me though, just because I was chasing the chicken through the basement and then went into the back room, locked it in there, and then it was flying over the shelves and knocking things over. And
yeah. It was kind of a chaotic disaster, but we got it settled, and she is settled now. Yeah. Okay, so first of all, thank you so much for joining me, and I'm glad that you're here. I made a few notes because I tend to talk off topic a little bit, and I get kind of carried away with stories, and so I want to make sure that I hit some of these points for you. Okay, so first of all, there are a ton of ways to make tinctures, and I'm not kidding. You can talk to all different types of herbalists, and whether they're folk all the way to people who are making product, of all these different methods of making tinctures. So I'm not going to say there's technically a right or a wrong method, but there are some good practices that you should definitely be aware of. First of all, things like mucilage and polysaccharides do not extract in alcohol. As a matter of fact, they precipitate it, and that means they'll separate it and it'll turn into this gummy mess. It's a really fun experiment if you ever want to do it. You know, make a cold infusion and have this nice mucilaginous, I don't know, tea, I guess, and then add alcohol to it. And as you add alcohol, you'll begin, and the alcohol increases in amount, you'll start seeing these clumps. So don't do things that you're trying to pull out that mucilaginous or the polysaccharides, that, you know, cooling, moistening stuff that's in it, because that's not going to work at all. Alkaloids are very soluble in alcohol, so that's a great thing to use, and less so in water. So you want to make sure that your alcohol level is a little bit higher. If you don't have a book to help you to know kind of what percentages, I highly suggest getting a book. I can put a couple of suggestions in the comment section, just books that would be helpful for you to know, like, oh, what percentage alcohol should I be using for this? Now, safety purposes, one of the reasons we started using spirits, you know, hard liquor, this is like, I feel like a bartender, is because tinctures last a lot longer. Once you tincture something, whether it's fresh or dry, that is good for years, as long as you store it correctly in the dark bottles and out of sun and out of extreme temperatures. But it extends the life of the herbal medicine, and it's super convenient. You know, I'm not always so good at remembering to make herbal tea. I love drinking herbal tea, but if I'm on the go or whatever, you know, bringing a bag of loose herbs, plus imagine going through an airport, you know, not that I do that, but, you know, with loose herbs, it's gonna look a little suspect. It's like, what you got here? But, you know, bringing tinctures with a label and things aren't generally questioned. Although, who knows now? I don't travel by plane anymore. So it's convenient to carry. It's easy to carry in your purse. And the other thing that's really, really great about tinctures is that they're easy to dose. You can start out very, very little, you know, called titration. It's starting out with a little and then increasing the amount you take to the point where it's doing its job, where you're noticing a difference. So other things that can be a lot harder to determine dosage, whereas this you can go, okay, I'm gonna start out with 2 drops in 4 ounces of water, and then slowly increase your amount up to where you need to. So it's super, super easy for that. And particularly for ones like lobelia, that is a very potent herb. It really is. It's it attaches to the same nicotine receptors as cigarettes, so it can help with, you know, smoking and things. It's a relaxer of the respiratory system, so it's great for asthma attacks and that type of thing. However, it can cause vomiting if you take in too much. So making a tincture, which is actually an alcohol vinegar, can help you to be able to take a very low dose, even to the point of making it almost homeopathic, you know, adding 1 drop to 8 ounces and then only taking a little bit of that 8-ounce liquid. I'm sorry, I'm totally like, not letting you talk or anything. I see. Okay.
I was gonna check to make sure there's no.
So anyway, I think that tinctures are really handy. It's certainly not the only method of herbal delivery, and it can in some ways separate us from the plant itself, but the process of making these can be quite fun. And it is a way for you to interact and also put intention into your medicine. It makes a difference. And maybe I'll talk about that one day, because when you're creating something, how you feel about it and what you're thinking about it, and even, you know, this is going to go to nourish, or this is going to go to help and heal, can make a difference, and does. And tests have been done. You know, research has actually been done that has proven that to be true. So this isn't, you know, just woo-woo. I don't know what you call it. So you know, really doing it with intention and doing it in a way that's meaningful. Okay, so most of the time, when we are making something, we want to know what percentage alcohol. In the case of Gotu Kola, which is what I'm doing today, this is a rejuvenating tonic. It's used in Ayurveda a lot, and it is really good for boosting your brain and building your body, encouraging hair growth and nail growth, and even injury recovery, not only on your skin, but ligaments and things like that. So it's a really great herb. And this is something that I really try to remind myself to take as tea, but I'm not that great about it. And when I leave the house, I'm like, oh, darn, I wish I had that. It's because herbs work best when taken regularly over time. They are not like our typical, prescription medicine where you're just like, oh, I just took an aspirin and I feel better. If you have an ongoing health issue, then you need to be committed to, allowing the plants to do their work within your body. It's not an automatic instant thing. So with Gotu Kola, the recommended amount is 50%. Now let's talk about alcohol percentages, because I know this can confuse some people. This is Everclear. This is, I'm trying to think what they call it. Whatever, it's just a straight on, as high of an alcohol I think as you can get, unless you find somebody who's like got their own distilling their own, like what is that stuff called? That's like backwoods.
Moonshine?
Moonshine. That might be 100%. I really don't know, but that could be. This runs at 95%, and in many states, and I know in many places in Canada, they do not allow for this high alcohol. So don't feel discouraged or frustrated if you can't get a hold of Everclear. I recommend it only because if you need a 70%, you can take Everclear and you can measure out the amounts you need and create a 70%. But if you don't have that option, don't worry about it. So this is called 95% alcohol, and it's 190 proof. So in order to figure out percentage of alcohol, you take the proof, and that's usually on everything, and divide it by 2. And that gives you the alcohol. When I make stuff with Everclear, I round up. I know it's 95, but I round up. You can be exact if you want to. I just round up to 100 to make my life a whole lot easier. Because if I need 50% and I needed 2 cups, I would do 1 cup of Everclear, 1 cup of water, and that would make my 50%. Okay. Ooh, let's get that away from me. All right, this is rum. This is 80 proof, and so it's 40%. I don't recommend using flavored alcohol. Plain, like vodka or Everclear, are better options. However, there's times when it's not that big of a deal and you can't do it. Like I used brandy to make some cleaver tincture, I guess, but really it's kind of this drinkable evening thing. So it's delicious. It's got that vanilla flavor with the brandy, which is really, really good. But remember that the alcohol only holds a certain amount of stuff. So if you already have flavoring in the alcohol, then that's already taken up some of the space that could be taken up by the constituents in the plant. So you're reducing the medicinal properties by using something that's flavored. So try to stick to things that aren't. But if you're going to sit around and sip or drink and it's not going to be a big deal, then feel free to use some creative flavors. This is vodka, and it is 80 proof, which is 40%. This is the absolute minimum alcohol that you should use with fresh plant. Preferably, you're going up to Everclear and using that with the fresh plant, because you need to remember that fresh plants still have all their water in them. So adding a lot of water is not good, and the minimum you can get down for it to stay good is 20%. That's it. So if you use anything less than a 40% and you add that water from the fresh plant, you're not going to have an adequate amount of alcohol to really give you that long-term storage that you're looking for. Okay, with dry plant material, you can go all the way down to 20%. but generally it is higher. And today I'm using dry plant. And I'm gonna show you not the official way. If I needed to know exactly how many milligrams or grams of my herb was in each mill, I would be doing that. And you know, it would be like a 1 to 4 or a 1 to 5. So 1 gram by weight of herb to 4 or 5 mils of menstruum, which is what this is. Menstruum, it can be alcohol, water, vinegar, you know, things like that. So today though, I'm showing you the simple, it's either called the simple or the folk method. And this makes it a lot easier. The one thing about the dry herb that you need to be careful of when you're working with it and you're using the folk method is expansion. As soon as I put the alcohol in here, this herb will begin to draw in the waters and it will start expanding. So within a few hours and then again the next day, you need to make sure that herb is under your menstruum. You need to make sure that it's submerged. So what I'm gonna do today, I'm gonna do a little less than half in here. And if I had a larger, wider jar, I would go almost up to half. If I was using fresh plant material, which I don't have enough growing out there right now to do this for you, I would fill it up almost to the top and make sure to, you know, chop it and break it down and then cover that with the alcohol. But I'm not going to do that today because I am using dry plant material. So, and this just looks like, I mean, it's so dry. I guess all dry material needs to be really dry, but, and so it really is going to expand when I get that, that menstruum on it. All right, I probably went a little more than half. In this case, I am going to use this vodka because it's 40%, and I don't know exactly how much liquid will be able to fit into this jar. I went ahead and just used a small jar. The one thing I'm going to tell you too is while you are getting used to making different herbal products, don't start out making mass amounts, okay? Because it doesn't, you end up with, you know, shelves and shelves of all of these tinctures and you're using so little. If you're selling them, sure, that's not a problem. But if you're not selling it, then having a bunch of tinctures on your shelf that are just gonna sit there for years is, you know, you just don't need to do that. If you're doing it for your family, just make as much as you would use. And this is so simple that you can do it, you know, once a month or every couple of months or whatever. All right, so it's in here. And what I'm gonna do is I'll check tomorrow and see how it's doing. Since I'm using dry material, I need to shake this. This needs to be shaken every day. And if you, for 4 to 6 weeks, and again, this varies all over the place, but for about 4 to 6 weeks, there have been many times though that I have somehow forgotten, you know, a lone tincture back there, and I didn't, you know, shake it after a few weeks, and I strained it, and it made really good, strong medicine. It'll only pull out a certain amount of constituents, and then it will stop, and it's not going to go bad by being in it for a long period of time. So don't worry about that. Also remember to label, okay? Even if it's a piece of masking tape, label. You know, I would put go-to cola and put the percentage of alcohol I used, and I would put folk method so that I understand, you know, I didn't do the 1 to 5 or the 1 to 4 or what the recommended amount was.
And probably the date too.
Yeah, the date that, you know, and sometimes I put the date that I did it and the date that I can, you know, stop shaking it and strain it, just so I don't have to do the mental math. Because that can be kind of irritating. Like, how long have I been shaking this? How many weeks has it been? You know. So if you have any questions, let me know. And has anybody made tinctures? You know, I know there's a few people on here. I don't know exactly who's on here. But, you know, have you made tinctures?
There's a delay.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, the other thing I'm going to tell you as well, and I know this might be contrary to what you've heard or some other herbalists have said, but when I was at an AHG, the American Herbalist Guild conference a couple of years ago, the symposium, one of the speakers was kind of a scientist, herbalist guy, and he talked about the importance of making sure to make individual tinctures because that allows full extraction for that particular plant. If you're trying to mix a bunch all together, you're not even sure how much of each one you're getting because again, that alcohol in the water can only hold so much. So they had done a lot of testing and had seen that the ones that were made in a blend as a tincture before had lesser constituents and less medicinal value than the ones that were made individual and then mixed together in percentages after they were already individually tinctured. So make sure that you're not mixing. The only time I do that is if I'm making bitters or I'm making like a blend to drink or whatever. And
it's more about the flavor, right?
Yeah, it's about the flavor and it's about stimulating the mouth and things. It's not about trying to draw out, necessarily a pretty consistent amount of, whatever from that one particular plant. Okay, well, hopefully that makes sense and hopefully that helps you make your own tinctures, and I hope that you'll make some. I will do one later on fresh plant tincture and show you how to go about doing that and how it's a little bit different, and maybe even get into some of the math with you so we can make an actual 1 to 5, or I thought about making a lobelia, which is a 1 to 10 because of the strong medicine it is, and it includes alcohol, vinegar as well. So I may just go ahead and show you that. There's so many little tricks to making high quality tinctures. So let me know what other subjects you'd like me to cover, and I hope that I was helpful and that you'll go and make tinctures. Until next time, health and joy.
Bye.